The stars above the planet Talares turned red. Flames danced across the sky as warships rained fire on the cities below. Buildings fell like paper. Screams filled the air. The peaceful people of Talares, known for their songs and gardens, had no army, no weapons, only hope. Hope that someone would come. In the central command tower, Elder Varn tapped the control panel with trembling hands. The air was thick with smoke, the ground shaking every few seconds as another blast landed nearby. Behind him, frightened children huddled together. The younger ones didn't understand what was happening. The older ones knew too much. Has the signal gone out? He asked the technician. Double quotes, yes, Elder, the young alien replied. His voice cracked. We sent the emergency SOS into deep space, to anyone who can hear us. Elder Varn closed his eyes. Anyone, he whispered. Even ghosts. Far across the galaxy, on the cold edge of space, the SOS reached a place most believed abandoned. A Terran relay station silent for decades suddenly flickered to life. Dust fell from steel panels. Rusty lights blinked. A humming sound echoed through the empty halls. A red sensor, once dead, turned green in a sealed control room. An ancient AI named Echo awakened. Signal detected. Origin, Talares system. Message, SOS, urgent, civilian casualties. Request, help, anyone, please. Echo did not speak. It simply acted. Old wires sparked. Forgotten satellites turned. A chain reaction began, quiet and fast. Echo did what it was built to do. It sent the signal to Earth. On the planet Europa, under frozen ice layers, there was a hidden base called Bastion Prime. No one outside Earth knew it still operated. It was buried so deep, even Earth's own cities didn't remember it existed. Inside, a woman stood in silence. Commander Rhea, tall and calm, watched the ancient relay transmission on a holographic screen. Her face was hard, marked by scars and time. Her eyes didn't blink. Around her, officers stood quietly, waiting. The SOS played again. Static, a cry, screams, explosions. Commander Rhea turned to her second-in-command. How far is Talares? 4 days with the war drives, the man replied. Less if we push. Fleet status? All Black-class ships are ready. Pilots are on standby. She nodded once, then spoke clearly. Deploy. In oceans deep, ships woke. Black steel monsters rose from beneath the waves. They weren't like normal ships. These were Deathworlder-class dreadnoughts, silent, fast, armored in materials even other species couldn't scan. Inside their hulls, humans moved like ghosts. No shouting, no celebration. Just quiet focus. Each crew member had trained for years. Some had fought in forgotten wars. Others had never seen battle, but all were ready. They were born of Earth, raised in gravity so strong that most alien species couldn't survive it. Their bodies were stronger, their nerves sharper, their minds trained for fear, pain, and silence. They didn't rush. They moved with purpose. One pilot, sitting inside a fighter marked Wraith 07, looked at the mission data. Talares, civilian world. Under attack? He muttered to himself. Not. Again, the fleet began to move. From Europa's shadows, from Mars's caves, from hidden stations across the system, Earth's Deathworlder fleet rose. No lights. No sounds. Just movement. The galaxy had grown used to peace, used to Earth being silent, forgotten. But now, Earth was awake. Back on Talares, Elder Varn watched the skies, his eyes filled with tears. The Korlax warships still hovered above, launching their final attack. His people were almost gone. The council was silent. No allies had answered. No fleet had come. He sank to his knees. Then something shifted in the sky. One of the children, barely old enough to speak, pointed upward. "Stars moving," she whispered. The elder looked up and saw it, a small black dot. Then another, then dozens, then hundreds. A dark wall of ships filled the sky, blocking the sun. They made no sound, no lights, only shadows. The enemy warships. Turned, scanners failed. Alarms rang across the Korlax fleet, and on every screen, a single human symbol appeared. A red circle surrounded by black wings. Deathworlders. They had come. Not to speak, not to ask. But to end it. Asterisk. Inside the command chamber of Bastion Prime, everything was quiet but tense. Commander Rhea stood in the center, her arms folded behind her back, eyes locked on the holographic display of Talaris. Flames danced across the planet. Civilian signatures were dropping fast. She did not speak right away. She was thinking. Around her, officers moved like machines, fast, silent, focused. This was not a place for panic. This was not a place for mercy. This was where Earth made decisions that changed entire star systems. "Fleet is in motion," said her second-in-command, Captain Drew. "All squadrons reporting ready. No resistance so far. The galaxy still thinks we're asleep." Rhea's lips curved slightly, not a smile. Something colder. "Good," she said. "Let's remind them." She turned to the center console and pressed her palm against the scanner. A small needle pricked her skin, reading her DNA. ID confirmed. Commander Rhea, level Omega activate protocol. Hammerfall, across the solar system. Old command systems blinked to life. Red lights, locked chambers opened. Hidden silos rumbled. Deep inside Earth's magnetic field, cloaked carriers moved from shadow. The Deathworlders were not a rumor anymore. They were real. And now they had a target. Above Talaris, the Korlax fleet began to scan the new arrivals. Unknown ships entering. "Orbit," said one technician aboard the Korlax command vessel. "Stealth coding. Readings are distorted. They're not responding to hails." General Vrose of the Korlax narrowed his eyes. "Who are they?" No one answered until one screen cracked to life. A distorted human face appeared. It was Commander Rhea. She didn't waste time. "This is Earth," she said. "You attacked civilians. You ignored galactic law. You have 1 minute to surrender your fleet and retreat." Vrose laughed. "Earth? You're extinct." Rhea tilted her head slightly. "Then your fleet will die to ghosts." The signal cut. On board the Terran dreadnought Silent Rain, pilot. Crews were already in their pods. The air smelled like steel and fuel. Deathworlder armor clicked into place. Each piece weighed more than a full Korlax soldier. One young soldier, Kai, adjusted his gloves. This was his first real mission. His heart pounded. But when he looked around at the older warriors, calm, focused, silent, he took a breath and hardened his jaw. He had trained for this. He was Terran-born. The voice of Commander Rhea echoed. Through the comms, they cried for help. "We answer with fire. Strike hard. Save what you can. Leave nothing of them." The silence afterward felt heavy. Then the order came. Drop. Korlax weapons turned toward the Terran fleet, but it was too late. The first strike was not seen. It was felt. A pulse beam, fired from a Terran battleship, pierced the shields of a Korlax destroyer like it was paper. The explosion lit the sky in red and orange, but no cheer came from the Terran side. No celebration. This wasn't revenge. This was duty. Within seconds, the black-armored Deathworlder fleet moved as one. Not a chaotic swarm, but a precision strike force. Each ship, each fighter, each drone moved with deadly purpose. The Korlax fleet began to crumble. On the surface of Talaris, The people looked up as fiery wreckage began falling from the sky, but none of it was Terra. It was the invaders. Inside the Terran command center, Rhea watched the feed from orbit, eyes focused, voice calm. "How long until the Korlax retreat?" asked Captain Drew. "They won't," Rhea replied. "They still think we're holding back." Captain Drew frowned. "Are we?" Commander Rhea finally smiled, a cold, terrifying thing. "No." She tapped a button. All across the Terran fleet, missiles loaded, drone swarms deployed, mech drop pods unlocked. And the Korlax, once the hunters of the stars, would now understand what it meant to fear Earth. The decision was made. There would be no survivors. Not this time. Asterisk. The stars above Telaris began to vanish one by one, but it wasn't nightfall. It wasn't natural. It was the Deathworlder fleet arriving. Thousands of massive jet-black warships silently drifted into orbit. Their hulls shimmered with stealth, coating invisible to most scanners. Each ship carried weapons strong enough to level continents. They didn't flash lights. They didn't broadcast warnings. They just hovered like judgment itself. The terrified Korlax ships tried to reposition. Their commanders barked orders. Shield frequencies were changed. Plasma weapons charged. But fear had already crept into their minds. These weren't normal enemy ships. These were Terran dreadnoughts, the kind built not just for war, but for punishment. In the main Korlax control room, General Vrose slammed his fist on the table. "How are they here so fast?" Earth was supposed to be neutral. No one answered him. Even the bravest Korlax warriors stared at the screen in silence. And then, without warning, something new appeared. It looked like a ship, but it wasn't shaped like any ship they knew. Terran Titan, Void's Grasp, slowly emerged from hyperspace. It was over 5 kilometers long. Its armor was dark and jagged, built from materials not found anywhere else in the galaxy. The Korlax scanners couldn't even tell where its engines were. Its design wasn't sleek. It was terrifying. It looked like a weapon that had grown teeth. And when it arrived, every Terran ship stopped moving. They waited. The Korlax fleet watched in horror as the Void's Grasp opened its side hangars. From within, hundreds of long, narrow objects dropped toward Telaris. The Korlax officers screamed. "They're launching missiles." But they weren't missiles. They were drop-pods. Each one carried a Deathworlder. On the surface of Telaris, the last survivors had taken shelter in old mining tunnels. Elder Varn stood beside a cracked support pillar, watching over the children. He thought it was over. He thought they would all die today. Then came the sound. It wasn't like the earlier explosions. It was sharper, heavier, more precise. He ran outside, just in time to see the drop pods hit the ground in rows, dozens of them. Each impact shook the land, but didn't harm it. From inside each pod, a hatch burst open, and they stepped out. Tall, armored figures, humans. Some carried massive rifles. Others had blades as long as their arms. Their armor hissed and clicked as they moved, scanning everything, searching for hostiles. Their helmets covered their faces, emotionless and dark. To the aliens watching, they looked like living machines. Monsters. But then, one of the humans turned and saw a small Telarian girl shaking behind a broken wall. He removed his helmet. Young human male with a calm face and soft eyes walked over. He knelt down and offered her a small silver badge. "It's over now," he said gently. "We're here." The child blinked. And for the first time that day, she smiled. High above, the Void's Grasp finally moved. Its forward cannons, ones that had not fired in over 30 years, powered up. Red light gathered like a storm. Korlax ships tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to run. In a single silent flash, the main Korlax, battlecruiser turned into glowing dust. The explosion was massive, but clean controlled. Terran weapons didn't waste energy. They didn't destroy for fun. They destroyed exactly enough to end the fight in seconds. 2 more Korlax ships vanished. The rest turned and ran, but Earth didn't chase. Not yet. They had made their point. Commander Rhea watched the screen inside. Silent Rain. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She simply tapped her command badge. Begin ground sweep. Secure civilians. Find the Korlax commanders. No mercy. The Deathworlders obeyed without hesitation. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They were there to end things. And everyone watching from orbiting satellites to nearby star systems now understood one thing. Earth was no longer silent. When Earth answered a cry for help, it answered with steel, fire, and Deathworlders. The Korlax command ship shook as another Terran plasma strike ripped through the void. General Vrose grabbed onto the railing as his officers scrambled for control. Raise shields, he barked. They're already up, sir. One shouted back, but it's like they're not even there. The screen in front of them flickered again. Another Korlax cruiser had vanished. No explosion, just vaporized. Clean, cold, terrifying. Then all systems froze. One message appeared on every Korlax screen, written in bold red letters. It had no sound, no voice, just 5 simple words. Surrender, or be erased. Earth. Silence filled the bridge. One of the younger Korlax officers trembled. What do we do? General Vrose clenched his jaw. Open a channel, he ordered. Stood tall, smoothing his robe, and stared into the camera. Terran fleet, this is General Vrose of the Korlax Empire. You are interfering with an authorized operation. You are not part of the Galactic Council. You have no authority here. Stand down immediately. The reply came seconds later. A video feed. It showed Commander Rhea standing calmly aboard the Terran dreadnought Silent Rain. Her expression was unreadable, her eyes sharp and steady. Behind her, Earth's war flag hung in silence red lines, slashed across a dark background, symbolizing judgment. She leaned slightly forward. No. The transmission ended. That one word was enough. Across the skies of Talaris, the Deathworlders began their sweep. Drop squads marched down the broken roads, past burned trees and shattered glass. Drones hovered above, scanning ruins, looking for survivors or threats. The Korlax ground forces, once confident and brutal, now moved like hunted animals. They tried hiding in caves, they tried using hostages. None of it worked. The Deathworlders had orders. They didn't hesitate. Their rifles spoke for them, and they always spoke last. One Korlax soldier, young and afraid, tried to surrender by dropping his weapon and kneeling. The Deathworlder in front of him didn't shoot. Instead, the massive human knelt down and placed a scanner against the alien's forehead. Non-combatant. The AI inside the helmet said. The Deathworlder stood up and called for a prisoner unit. He didn't speak to the alien. He didn't need to. Mercy was not a promise. It was earned. High above, Earth's fleet moved again. This time, they spread out, forming a black ring around the planet. Any Korlax ship that tried to run was locked, tracked, and destroyed. But most of them didn't even try anymore. Inside the fleet's command channel, a quiet voice came through. Message from Galactic Council. They demand Earth stand down. They claim Talaris is outside Earth's territory. Commander Rhea didn't respond immediately. She looked at the live feed from the surface families crawling from rubble, alien children hugging Deathworlder medics, and civilians waving up at the sky, unsure whether to fear the Terrans or thank them. Then she spoke. Play my response live across open frequencies. A COM officer gave a nod that the galaxy was listening. Commander Rhea stood before the screen, straight as a blade. "This is Earth's answer to the Council," she said. "You heard their SOS. You did nothing. We heard it too. And we acted." She stepped forward. "We're not here to claim territory. We're not here for medals. We are here because someone needed help and no one else came. That is all." She stared straight into the lens. No more discussions. No more politics. "If you come here to stop us, you'll be seen as enemies. The age of silence is over." Then she gave a final order. Cut the feed. Across the galaxy, millions watched. In silence, some in fear, some in awe. But all of them knew Earth was not hiding anymore. Back on the surface, Elder Varn limped through the wreckage, helped by 2 young Deathworlder medics. He still couldn't believe it. He had seen legends heard tales of Earth's soldiers being monsters, machines, death incarnate. But the human beside him had given his cloak to a wounded child. Another carried food packs and handed them to families. Yes, they were dangerous. But they were not monsters. They were protectors, real ones. He looked up at the night sky, now filled with Earth's fleet hovering, unmoving, watching. And for the first time in a long while, he felt safe. Ash floated through the air like snow. The fires of war had faded, leaving behind blackened hills and quiet cities. Talaris, once a green and peaceful world, now looked like a graveyard. Smoke curled into the sky, and silence covered the ruins. Like a blanket, but it was not the silence of death. It was the silence after. The Terran, Deathworlders, had arrived in full force. Their soldiers moved across the land in perfect lines, no shouting, no panic, just quiet, steady action. They moved, like a storm had passed, and they were the calm that followed. Near the old capital, a large plaza was cleared. Fallen stones and shattered glass were pushed aside by Terran mech units. Medical shelters were set up. Plasma tents unfolded in seconds. Wounded aliens were gently carried in on stretchers, some half-conscious, others still clutching their children. Human medics in white armor moved quickly. They didn't ask for names. They didn't ask for thanks. They only asked one thing. "Are you still breathing?" If the answer was yes, help came immediately. If not, they moved to the next. Commander Rhea stood near the center, watching a large screen that mapped the entire battle zone. The Korlax ground forces had been almost completely wiped out. A few remained hiding in caves or tunnels, but they wouldn't last long. Next to her, Captain Drew reviewed drone footage. "We've confirmed over 94% of Talarise is secure," he reported. "No major resistance left. Civilians are responding well. No signs of rebellion or hostility." Commander Rhea's eyes stayed on the screen. "Good," she said, "but we're not finished." She pressed a button. "Send in the fire teams." Across the ruined cities, small black pods landed. Inside, each one was a squad of Deathworlder cleansers. These weren't medics. These weren't peacekeepers. These were the quiet ones, the ones who ended unfinished battles. They wore heavier armor, with no markings. They did not speak. They didn't ask questions. Their job was simple: clear every last trace of the Korlax. And they did. Caves filled with hiding soldiers were collapsed using sonic charges. Command bunkers were burned down. Even hidden listening posts, buried deep under old buildings, were discovered and destroyed. Nothing of the enemy would remain. No technology, no chance for return. The surface of Talaris would be cleansed, not out of revenge, but out of protection. Because Earth had learned long ago, if you leave the rot, it always grows back. In one ruined neighborhood, a Deathworlder named Kai walked beside a local boy named Loro. The young alien had followed him since the first day the humans landed. He wasn't afraid anymore. "Why do your soldiers move so quietly?" Lauro asked, watching as another group passed them. Kai looked down at him, thinking. "We come from a place," he finally said, "where sound means danger. On Earth, if you hear too much noise, something bad is coming." Lauro nodded slowly. "But here, you're the ones who came when we called." Kai stopped. He removed one of his gloves and reached into a side pocket. He pulled out a small metal badge. It had the Terran symbol, the red circle with black wings. He handed it to the boy. "Keep it," Kai said. "It means you were heard." Lauro stared at it like it was treasure. Back in orbit, the Void's grasp monitored everything. No Korlax ship remained within 3 systems. Commander Rhea stood in the bridge, reviewing one final report. She had read hundreds like it during her time, but this one felt different. It ended with a simple line. "Civilians safe, mission success, Talaris secure." She leaned back and closed her eyes for just a second. Then she whispered, "Tell Earth. Let them know we kept our promise." On Earth, far away under the clouds of home, a child watched the stars through a telescope. Her father came beside her. "Why? Do you keep looking up?" he asked. She smiled. "Because someone out there asked for help, and we answered." Deep in space, far from Talaris, the last pieces of the Korlax fleet were trying to escape. Their engines burned hot. Their scanners were jammed. Their weapons were offline. All they wanted was distance. Anything that might keep them safe from the Deathworlders now haunting their memory. But Earth didn't believe in unfinished wars. Above them, without warning, 6 Terran stealth ships decloaked. They weren't large. They didn't need to be. What they carried wasn't firepower. It was precision. Each Terran vessel launched a swarm of tracker drones. The drones moved like shadows, slipping through shields, locking onto engines, bridges, escape pods. Seconds later, every single Korlax ship was hit, but not destroyed. Disabled. They would float, dead in space, helpless until Earth made its final choice. Back in Talari's orbit, inside the bridge of the Silent Rain, Commander Rhea received the report. "All remaining Korlax vessels disabled," said Captain Drew. "No way for them to leave the system." Rhea nodded. "Good. They don't deserve clean exits." She turned to the comms officer. "Patch me through to their commander." Inside a damaged Korlax frigate, General Vrose stood staring at a cracked monitor. He was bleeding, armor dented, breathing heavy. Most of his crew were gone. Only a few frightened officers remained. Then the screen blinked to life. Commander Rhea appeared, calm and cold. "This is Earth," she said simply. "Your weapons are gone. Your ships are dead. You attacked civilians. You didn't expect judgment, but here it is." Vrose sneered, still trying to stand tall. You can't do this. We are part of the Council. There are laws." Rhea's voice cut through him like a blade. "And what law protected Talaris when you rained fire on their cities? What treaty guarded those children? Where was your council then?" Vrose had no answer. He just breathed heavily, chest rising and falling. With shame and fear, Commander Rhea leaned in closer to the screen. "We don't erase for power," she said. "We erase so you can't come back." Then she gave the signal. In unison, Earth's Judicator-class weapons platforms locked onto every Korlax. Ships still drifting in space. No warnings. No delays. One by one, the ships disappeared, burned to atoms by beams so precise. Even escape pods didn't survive. The galaxy didn't just watch it happen. They felt it. Back on Talaris, the sky turned clear. For the first time in days, there was no fire, no smoke, no strange lights, just clouds and sunlight. The people walked out of shelters slowly, blinking at the peace they thought they'd never see again. and standing all around them guarding. Them, scanning for danger, were the Deathworlders. They didn't leave yet. They stayed to rebuild, to bury the dead, to stand watch. Some helped rebuild schools. Some cleared ruined temples. Some sat with grieving families without saying a word. They weren't just warriors now. They were guardians. Near the old city ruins, Elder Varn sat beside a group of young survivors. They were drawing pictures in the dust ships with black wings. Big human soldiers with glowing helmets, alien kids holding Earth flags. He smiled. "Why do you draw them?" he asked softly. A little girl answered without looking up. "Because they came when no one else did." Varn looked toward the hills, where the last Deathworlder shuttle waited. "They did more than that," he whispered. "They ended the monsters." Far above, in the flagship Void's grasp, Commander Rhea stood alone at the observation window. The stars were quiet again. The mission was over, but Earth's silence was no longer the same. Once, Earth had hidden. Now they had spoken, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what they had said. Asterisk. Across the galaxy, stars continued to burn. But something had changed. News of what happened on Talaris spread faster than any warship. Every major system, every council channel, every outer colony was talking about the same thing. Earth had returned, and they didn't come with peace talks. They came with warships, Deathworlders, and judgment. The Galactic Council, once confident and untouchable, sat in silence as footage from Talaris played across their halls, burning cities alien. Cries for help, black ships arriving like shadows, and the enemy simply vanishing. None of it was a message Earth had sent directly. It was what the survivors broadcasted. The alien girl holding a human soldier's hand. The elder bowing to a Terran medic. The Korlax commander's final scream before his ship vanished in fire. And finally one quiet recording from a Talarian child. Her voice shaky, but clear. "We asked for help. The galaxy ignored us. Earth didn't." In a clean conference hall on Earth, Commander Rhea stood before a live transmission. Behind her stood no soldiers, no ships. Just her and the Earth flag. A million eyes across the galaxy were watching. She began to speak. "Many of you believed Earth was gone, that we had turned our backs, that we were hiding." She paused, voice steady and calm. "You were wrong." Her tone did not change, but it cut deeper than any weapon. "We watched for decades. We saw the Council choose comfort over courage. We saw worlds burn while you waited for debate. We heard every cry for help that you ignored." She leaned forward slightly. But Talaris sent a signal, and we answered. The room fell silent. This was not an active invasion. It was not politics. It was simple. Someone was in danger. So we moved. She looked directly into the camera. "And understand this clearly. If another innocent world cries out, Earth will answer again. And if that makes you uncomfortable, let that line hang. Then you are never fit to lead." She turned and walked away. The feed cut, and the galaxy shivered. Months later, statues of the Deathworlders stood in Talaris's rebuilt cities. Not as conquerors, but as saviors. Children played in parks where once plasma bombs fell. Farmers planted again in fields once scorched black. At night, candles were lit not in mourning, but in gratitude. They would never forget who came for them when no one else did. Not the Council, not their neighbors. Only Earth. In a small outpost on a forgotten moon. A Korlax survivor now hiding, injured. Broken watched a screen flicker. He saw a child holding a silver badge with the Terran symbol. He saw black ships flying overhead. He saw the word hope written in alien languages. And for the first time in his cold, angry life, he felt fear, not because of what Earth had done, but because he knew they weren't finished. If someone else called, they would come again. Back in Earth's orbit, Commander Rhea stood inside a dark observatory aboard the Silent Ring. The stars stretched endlessly in front of her. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. A voice came through her soft, clear, emotionless. Another signal detected. Outer rim. Unregistered world. Coordinates locked. She nodded once. Prepare. The fleet. And in silence, the Deathwelders began to move again. Asterisk.